Bring you a new story of Socrates, the man who chose truth over life. A man sits alone in a stone prison cell. A cup of poison rests in his hand. Outside, his students are crying. Inside, he is calm. He could escape. Guards have been bribed. A boat is waiting. But he will not run. In a few hours, he will be dead. And he chose it. This is the story of Socrates, the man who was offered his life back and said no. The man who believed that truth was worth more than breathing. By the end of this video, you will understand why a man who could have lived chose to die instead, and why, 2,400 years later, the world still has not stopped asking the questions he asked. To understand this man, we must first understand his city, Athens, around 470 BCE. This was not an ordinary city. It was the center of the world. Marble temples rose into the sky. Marketplaces buzzed with traders from every corner of the Mediterranean. Poets recited verses in public squares. Builders raised the Parthenon, a temple so perfect it would be copied for thousands of years. Athens had just defeated the mighty Persian Empire. It was proud, it was powerful, it believed it could do anything. And it was here, in this golden age, that a baby boy was born to a stonemason and a midwife. No one knew it yet, but this child would one day make all of Athens uncomfortable. The boy's name was Socrates. His father, Socrates, carved stone for a living. Socrates would later say something strange about his mother's work. He said he did the same job she did, not with bodies, with minds. He called himself an intellectual midwife, someone who helped other people give birth to their own ideas. As a boy, Socrates trained to follow his father's trade. He learned to shape stone, but something inside him was being shaped too. He was curious, restless. He asked questions that made adults uncomfortable. Even as a child, he wanted to know not just how things worked. He wanted to know why. Before Socrates became a philosopher, he was a soldier. War had come to Greece. Athens was locked in a brutal, decades-long conflict with its rival, Sparta. Historians call it the Peloponnesian War. Socrates fought in it, and he fought well. He marched into battle at Potidaea. He stood his ground at Delium when other soldiers fled. He was known for something unusual, toughness that bordered on strange. On freezing winter campaigns, while other soldiers wrapped themselves in fur and boots, Socrates reportedly walked barefoot over ice and snow. He could endure what others could not. He could outlast hunger, cold, fear, and exhaustion. This was not just physical strength. This was the same iron will that would, decades later, let him face death without flinching. The battlefield was teaching him something the philosophers had not yet taught him: how to stay calm when everything around him was chaos. War ended. Socrates returned to Athens, but he did not return to his father's stone working trade. Instead, he began wandering. Every day, he walked into the heart of the city, into the marketplace, the gymnasiums, the public squares, and he talked to people, not small talk, big questions. What is courage? What is justice? What does it mean to live a good life? He looked strange while doing it. Ancient writers describe him as having a flat nose, bulging eyes, and an unkempt appearance. He wore the same simple cloak no matter the season. He often went barefoot, even in the city streets. He owned almost nothing, but people could not stop listening to him. Young men began following him everywhere, eager to hear what he would ask next. Socrates never charged a single coin for his conversations. While other so-called wise men, called sophists, taught for a fee, Socrates gave his questions away for free. He was not interested in being rich. He was interested in being honest. Then something happened that changed everything. A close friend of Socrates traveled to Delphi, to the most sacred site in the Greek world. There stood the oracle, a priestess believed to speak with the voice of the god Apollo himself. The friend asked the oracle a simple question: "Is anyone wiser than Socrates?" The answer stunned him. No one is wiser. When Socrates heard this, he did not celebrate. He was confused, even troubled. He knew deep down that he was not wise. He felt he knew almost nothing at all. So he set out to prove the oracle wrong. He went to the politicians who were praised for their wisdom. He questioned them. He went to the poets who were celebrated for their brilliance. He questioned them. He went to the craftsmen who were respected for their skill. He questioned them too. And again, the same thing happened. These men appeared wise. They spoke with confidence. They were admired by the whole city. But when Socrates asked them simple, direct questions, their answers fell apart. They did not actually know what they claimed to know. And slowly, Socrates understood the riddle. He was not wiser because he knew more. He was wiser because he knew nothing. And that one idea would put a target on his back. Socrates developed a way of talking that no one had used quite like this before. It looked simple, but it was devastating. He would ask someone a question. What is courage, for example? The person would give an answer, usually an example. Courage is standing firm in battle, they might say. But Socrates would push further. That is one example, he would say. But what is the idea behind all examples of courage? The person would try again and again, and slowly, step by step, through patient questioning, Socrates would reveal a problem. The person did not actually have a clear definition. They only thought they did. Their confidence would crumble. Sometimes they got angry, sometimes embarrassed. This method became known as the Socratic method, or elenchus, the Greek word for cross-examination. Socrates was not trying to humiliate people for fun. He believed that before a person could find real wisdom, they first had to admit how little they actually understood. He compared himself to a gadfly, a small insect that bites a lazy horse to keep it awake. Athens, he believed, was that lazy horse, and he was here to keep the city thinking, whether the city wanted to think or not. Despite his life of public questioning, Socrates also had a private life. He married a woman named Xanthippe. She has gone down in history with a reputation for being sharp-tongued and difficult to live with. Ancient writers tell stories of her temper. Whether all those stories are true or exaggerated by men who underestimated her, we cannot fully know. Together, Socrates and Xanthippe had 3 sons. Socrates was already an older man by the time he married, and his youngest son was still just a small child by the time the final chapter of his life began. He owned little. He earned almost nothing. While other men chased wealth and political power, Socrates spent his days barefoot in the marketplace, talking about virtue. His family likely struggled because of it. But Socrates believed that a comfortable life built on lies was worth far less than a difficult life built on truth. Not everyone around him agreed. At the Temple of Delphi, carved into the stone above the entrance, was a short Greek phrase, "Know thyself." Socrates took this idea and made it the center of his entire philosophy. He believed that human excellence, what the Greeks called arete, was not about wealth or status or fame. It was about understanding your own soul. He compared this to ordinary trades. A shoemaker must understand his craft to make good shoes. A horse trainer must understand horses to train them well. In the same way, Socrates believed, a human being must understand their own soul to live a good life. He used a word for this inner self: psyche, not the body, not possessions, not reputation. The psyche, the soul, the true self, was what truly mattered. He believed that all wrongdoing came from one single root cause: ignorance. If a person truly understood what was right, Socrates argued, they would do it. People only did wrong because they did not truly know any better. This was a radical idea. It meant that evil was not some dark, unstoppable force. It was simply a lack of understanding. And understanding could be taught. But Athens was changing, and not for the better. The long war with Sparta finally ended in 404 BCE. Athens lost. Its navy, the pride of its empire, was destroyed. Its mighty walls were torn down. Its empire crumbled into nothing. The city that once believed it could do anything had been humiliated. And in the chaos that followed defeat, a brutal group of rulers seized power. They became known as the 30 Tyrants. For a short but terrifying period, they executed citizens, seized property, and crushed anyone who resisted. Eventually, democracy returned to Athens. But the wounds remained. The city was frightened, bitter, looking for someone to blame. And then people remembered something troubling. Some of the most dangerous men in recent Athenian history had once been close to Socrates. Alcibiades, a brilliant general who had betrayed Athens. Critias, the most ruthless of the 30 tyrants. Both men, as young students, had once sat and listened to Socrates question the world. Athens began to wonder. Had Socrates corrupted them? In 399 BCE, 3 men brought formal charges against Socrates. Their names were Meletus, Anytus, and Lycon. The charges were serious. First, impiety, failing to honor the gods of Athens and introducing new and dangerous beliefs. Second, corrupting the youth of the city. The first charge was built on shaky ground. Socrates had, by most accounts, followed the religious customs of Athens his whole life. But there was one detail his accusers seized upon. Socrates often spoke of an inner voice, a divine sign, a daemon, he called it. This voice never told him what to do. It only ever warned him, stopped him when he was about to make a mistake. To his accusers, this was suspicious, new, threatening. The second charge was more dangerous because it held a small grain of truth. Socrates had taught, or at least spoken with, men who later betrayed Athens. He had also openly criticized Athenian democracy itself, questioning whether important decisions should be left to ordinary citizens chosen by lottery, rather than to those who were truly wise. In a city still bleeding from war and tyranny, these words sounded like treason. Socrates was brought before a jury of 500 Athenian citizens. His life was now in their hands. Most accused men, facing death, would beg. They would weep. They would bring their crying families before the jury to win sympathy. Socrates did none of this. He stood before the 500 jurors and defended himself with the same method he had used his whole life: questions, logic, unshaken honesty. He told the jury plainly that he would never stop asking his questions, even if they let him go. He compared himself to a gift sent by the gods, a gadfly stinging Athens awake from laziness and false confidence. This did not win him friends in the room. When the jury voted, Socrates was found guilty, but the trial was not over. Under Athenian law, the convicted man could propose his own punishment. Most men would propose exile, leave the city forever, but live. Socrates did something almost unbelievable. He suggested that, instead of being punished, he should be rewarded with free meals for life, as a public hero. It was not arrogance. It was Socrates refusing, even now, to pretend he had done something wrong. The jury was furious. By an even larger margin than the guilty verdict, they sentenced Socrates to death. He would drink poison hemlock. Socrates was placed in a prison cell to await execution. While he waited, his wealthy friend Crito came to visit him with a plan. The guards had been bribed. A safe escape route was arranged. Socrates could leave Athens that very night and live the rest of his life somewhere far away, free and alive. All he had to do was say yes. Socrates, true to his nature, did not simply accept or refuse. He examined the question the way he had examined every question of his life. He asked whether escaping would be just or unjust. He reasoned that he had lived his entire life under the laws of Athens. Those same laws had protected him, raised him, allowed him to exist as a citizen for 70 years. If he had accepted the benefits of those laws his whole life, could he now reject them simply because, this one time, they had ruled against him? He concluded that running away would betray everything he had ever taught. It would prove his enemies right, that his philosophy was empty words, abandoned the moment it became costly. Socrates refused to escape. He chose to stay. He chose to die, rather than betray the truth he had spent his whole life defending. On the morning of his execution, Socrates' friends and students gathered in his cell. They expected grief. They found something else. Socrates was calm, even cheerful. He spent his final hours doing what he had always done: talking, questioning, discussing the nature of the soul and whether death was truly something to fear. His wife, Xanthippe, came to him, holding their youngest son. Seeing her husband for the last time, she broke down, crying out in grief. Socrates, in his usual composed manner, asked his friend Crito to take her home. He did not want sorrow to fill his final hours. He wanted clarity. As the sun moved across the sky, the moment finally arrived. A guard entered, carrying a cup. Inside, it was hemlock, a deadly poison. Socrates took the cup without trembling. He asked the guard a simple, practical question. How should he drink it to make sure it worked properly? Then, calmly, in front of the men who loved him most, he drank. The poison began to take effect slowly. Socrates walked around the cell as instructed until his legs grew heavy. He lay down. His body grew cold, starting from his feet, moving upward. His students watched in silence, tears streaming down their faces, as the man who had taught them how to think quietly stopped breathing. According to Plato, Socrates' very last words were strange and strangely calm. He asked Crito to remember to pay a small debt, a rooster owed to the god of healing, Asclepius. Even in his final breath, Socrates was thinking of duty, of order, of finishing things properly. And then, the man who had spent his entire life asking questions fell silent forever. Socrates was about 70 years old. Socrates left behind no books, no written philosophy, not a single page in his own hand. And yet, his death became one of the most written about moments in human history. His student, Plato, recorded the final days of his teacher's life in works that we still read today. The Apology, the Crito, the Phaedo. Through these pages, Socrates' calm acceptance of death became something extraordinary, not a tragedy, a teaching. He showed the world that a person could face the ultimate fear, the fear of death itself, without panic, without despair. Because to Socrates, living a long life was never the goal. Living a true life was. Many of his fellow citizens believed they had silenced him. They were wrong. By killing Socrates, Athens did not end his influence. It made it permanent. Among the students who watched Socrates die, one young man was forever changed. His name was Plato. Heartbroken and disillusioned by what Athens had done to his teacher, Plato eventually founded a school of his own, the Academy. It became one of the first great institutions of higher learning in human history. Inside its walls, Plato trained the next generation of thinkers. One of his students would go on to become arguably the most influential philosopher in human history, a man named Aristotle. Aristotle would later become the personal tutor of a young prince, a boy who would grow up to conquer most of the known world, Alexander the Great. Think about that chain for a moment. Socrates taught Plato. Plato taught Aristotle. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great, a barefoot philosopher who owned almost nothing, executed by his own city, became the root of an intellectual tree that would one day touch the most powerful conqueror in the ancient world. 24 centuries have passed since Socrates drank that cup of hemlock. Empires have risen and crumbled. Languages have changed. Entire civilizations have vanished. But one thing has not disappeared: the Socratic method. Walk into any law school today, and you will see professors using Socrates' technique, asking sharp, probing questions to test a student's understanding. Walk into a courtroom, and lawyers are cross-examining witnesses using the very same logical structure Socrates pioneered in the Athens marketplace. Walk into modern therapy sessions, and you will find techniques built on the idea of questioning your own assumptions to discover deeper truths about yourself. Socrates believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. That single sentence still shapes how millions of people think, teach, argue, and grow today. He never wrote it down himself. He never needed to. The questions he asked were powerful enough to survive without him. So why did he really do it? Why didn't Socrates simply escape, live out his days quietly somewhere far from Athens, and let history remember him as a free man instead of an executed one? The answer reveals everything about who Socrates truly was. Socrates did not believe that a long life was automatically a good life. He believed that integrity, living in agreement with your own deepest principles, mattered more than survival itself. If he had run from Athens that night, he would have spent his remaining years as a man who preached about justice, but fled the moment justice turned against him. He would have become exactly what his enemies always accused him of being: a man whose words meant nothing once they became inconvenient. By staying, by drinking the poison without fear, Socrates proved something far more powerful than any argument he had ever made in the marketplace. He proved it with his life, or rather, with his death. Truth, to Socrates, was not just something you talked about. It was something you were willing to die for. Socrates left this world with nothing. No books, no fortune, no empire, no monument built in his name while he lived. Just questions. And yet, those questions outlived every gold coin, every palace, and every army of his time. Today, his name is known in nearly every corner of the world. Students debate his ideas in classrooms from New York to New Delhi, from Cairo to Tokyo. Philosophers still argue about what he truly believed because he refused to write anything down himself. Even people who have never read a single page of Plato still use the phrase, playing devil's advocate. a modern echo of the very method Socrates invented 24 centuries ago. He was once called dangerous by his own city. He was executed as a criminal. And yet today, statues of his face stand in museums and universities across the globe, while the names of the men who voted to kill him have faded into obscurity. Socrates was not just a philosopher. He was proof that an idea, defended honestly, can outlive empires, outlive armies, outlive even the men who tried to silence it. Many men in history sought power. Many sought riches. Many sought to be remembered as conquerors. Socrates sought none of these things. He sought only one thing: truth. He walked barefoot through the streets of Athens, owning almost nothing, asking questions that made the powerful uncomfortable and the proud uncertain. And when his own city turned against him, when he was given the chance to run and live quietly somewhere far away, he chose to stay. He chose the truth, even when the truth cost him his life. More than 2,400 years later, his name is still spoken, not because he built an empire, not because he won a war, but because he asked a single, simple question that the world has never stopped asking since. What does it truly mean to live a good life? Socrates, the man who chose truth over life. If this story moved you, if it made you stop and think about your own life, even for a moment, that is exactly what Socrates would have wanted. Subscribe, because we are telling the stories of the men and women who shaped human history, one truth at a time. The next story might just change the way you see the world,